Welcome back. So we made our braids and we're going to use these transitions for our braids, but each case will be a case. So we might have to tweak these as we go in order to fit the braid that we're doing. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now, what we really need is a real-time engine to let us visualize what we're doing, okay? You can see it quite well here in ZBrush, but it's always good to have a real-time engine to work on as you go. So let's integrate that. Here I open Marmoset Toolbag3 and we're going to use this to visualize the hair as we go. Once we're kind of ready with it, we're going to put it in Unreal Engine and actually have the final asset there. But for now, this is a great way to just preview your work in a real-time engine. So this is Toolbag3, okay? Just a quick run up. You get all your file, new, edit, all the stuff here that you might want to need. Then you have these icons over here, which you can add lights and stuff to it. I'm not going to go in depth into Toolbag. I'm just going to show you what we can do and what we're going to do for our work here, because this is a bit outside of the scope, but this is a quite easy software to work. So you're not going to have any trouble with it. Over here, you have the outliner. It's basically, it has a scene, and on the scene, we have a renderer, main camera, and the HDRI sky. And whatever you select, you're going to get different settings here to tweak, and this is your material palette. That's all you need to know, really. So the first thing we're going to do is actually click on the scene here and make sure we put it to the whatever units we were using, okay? I'm working in centimeters. My ZBrush scene is in centimeters. My Max and Maya scene were in centimeters, so it makes perfect sense to have this in centimeters, okay? And I want to show the scale reference here as well. If I zoom out, by alt-clicking and with your right mouse button just dragging it out, you can use your mouse wheel as well. Your mouse wheel will also pan. The controls are quite similar to what we have in Maya and other software, so you're going to fly through this. You can see your scale here, okay? If you go File, if you go Import Model, then you can pick your head. In this case, I have my old head here on an FBX file. It's the same as if you use an OBJ. I just like to use FBX. Marmoset and an Unreal Engine. And it just brings up our head. You can see now that we made a beautiful mustache. See? I told you I was going to teach you hair. Right, only a joke. Anyway, render or scene, and you can see that my head is more or less where the head would be. Some heads might be over there or lower, depends on the height of your character, but it seems like I'm on the ballpark with this, so it's fine. If you see your scale way up there and your head way up here, down here, then you might want to just, in Maya or Max, bring it to whatever scale you want to fit it in here, and then just update your ZBrush scene with it. That's my advice, because this is not only to make it pretty, you know, all the subsurface scattering and all that on the materials is going to work with a scaling factor. And so if your scaling is off by being too big or too small, then the result is not going to be the same as I get on my screen. And you want to make sure you're more or less around here, okay? So we can simply turn that off now that we have this. We have our head. If we hold Shift and right click, you can rotate the HDRI map behind us, and that will rotate it, okay? And shifting the lights with it, obviously. So let's set this up. Let's click the renderer and let's just swap some values here. So the resolution we're going to make 2:1, which is double resolution. We're going to also turn on local reflections and internal refraction. We're going to change the shadow resolution to ludicrous. This obviously depends on the capacity of your PC. If you see it gets really slow, so you might want to tweak this. You can enable GI and make the voxel resolution high. As for the brightness, I like to put a bit less, so let's do 0.7, otherwise the ambient occlusion is just going to vanish. And in here, I might increase the strength depending on what it comes up here. We'll see once we have the textures. Then we'll go into our main camera, and we're just going to set the field of view to a bit less, okay? Almost orthographic, it just makes things look better. So something like this. As for the depth of field, we might turn it on later on. Okay, if you turn it on, if you middle mouse click, it's going to focus on your camera, give you a bit of blur on the edges. Then you can tweak the values here. But for now, we don't need it really. So let's just turn it off so it doesn't get in the way of our construction. The other thing we're going to change off the bat is actually the tone mapping to this one here, which I can't pronounce the name and I'm not going to even risk it. And the rest is just things we're going to tweak in the end as we like it, okay? Then we have our sky, which is our HDRI map. And for that, you can go here to presets. I'm going to choose something like the Grace Cathedral, for example. Just give us a nice warm color. And then I'm going to change the mode to actual color, which I should pick something like this actually, yeah. Okay, darker blue, almost black, just to give us something to get us going. Then we can start with our materials. And for that purpose, I'm going to just right click and duplicate this guy. I'm going to change it here to gloss. I'm going to click this albedo button here and go to my textures folder here where I want to just put my eye color. You can't see the texture there now because I actually have the eye lenses and the eyeballs. The eye lenses are in front, okay? And I haven't assigned the material as well. So if I put the material onto the eyeballs, you'll see the material is now there and the eye lenses are in the front if I turn them on. So for the lenses material that is in the front, I'm going to actually duplicate this one as well. I'm going to call this actually, it's lens or cornea, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to assign this to the eye lens. And the main thing here is on the transparency, just click add, okay? And from there, just make sure, you can use gloss or rough, it's the same, but just make sure it's really glossy and it starts to reflect stuff. So it's not clear on the material here, but in here it is. It's the effect that we wanted, okay? Now back to our eyes, just to make sure everything is like we want it. I'm going to change this from metal to spec, just because I want to have a gloss specular workflow here. Not a lumbertion, I'm going to change it to subsurface scattering. I'm going to just actually leave it like that to see how it goes. And at this point, I can actually just place some lights on my scene. Okay, if I put my camera around here, looking from above, and I click on my keyboard or press on my keyboard, Control L, it's going to give me a light. If you rotate your camera now by holding Alt and with your left mouse button, and then zooming out with your right mouse button, holding Alt, you can see that the light is hitting us from the front there, just where my camera was. Now, I want to enlarge the spot angle a little bit, so making sure it encompasses everything. And because my shadows are too strong, I just want to just increase the width of these shadows a tad, something like so. We still want the shadows to be there, but I want these shapes to be a bit smoother, okay? So having that light sorted, I'm gonna go here onto this angle from the back on the side and click Control L again and do pretty much the same. So I'm gonna increase the spot angle a little bit, and then I'm gonna go and just make these actually easier. If you take a look at its shadow, I'm gonna increase this a little bit, not much. We can pick it later, of course, and we can go on to the other side and do the same. And we have a basic 3-point light system going. So let's just see here, increase these. And now we can just click the tree lights or select the tree lights holding Shift, and you can drag them under the skylight. Okay, just make sure before you do so, let's turn it off and see the way that we want our skylight to work. So I'm holding Shift and rotating with my mouse, right mouse button. moving my mouse across, I'm just trying to find a good spot for my HDRI, which would be here, like for the front. I know this light here will hit me from the front, so I want that to match the other one. And then I'm going to drag the three of them under the sky. And now when I rotate one, I rotate everything, okay? I just want to keep as reference that light number one is the front light. So I'm just going to put that there. And the other ones would be rim lights. You can name them as well if you like, okay? And in here, you can just start tweaking the intensity of your light. We're going to add one more, or well, a few more lights if necessary, but we'll see then as we go how this behaves with our hair and everything, okay? Let's build our skin material here as well. Right click, duplicate. This would be the head. In this case, I'm going to rename this one as well as being the eyes. So on the head, we're going to go to our normal here, and we're going to get our normal for the head, whatever you have. If you don't have a head, just get one, buy one, create one. It's up to you. This is a bit outside the scope of this tutorial, but if you have a head with its maps, then this is what you want to do. Put your normal there. In this case, I just want to check by dragging this here if the normal map is working. I can see it's there. If I flip the green channel, it's going to get flipped. So this was actually done with OpenGL, which is the same system as Marmoset uses. So I should leave it like this. But if you got your normal with DirectX, or if you see something weird on your normal map, you might want to flip the green channel and see if it gets any better. In this case, it doesn't. I like it this way. That's fine. But also change the normals format here to detail normals. That gives us an extra map, which I'm going to add the micro normal texture. This just adds detailing here, which we can increase to whatever size we see fit. It just adds that little extra pores and face detail. It's still a bit too big. You can turn it on and off just to see what's going on. So if you think that works, that helps a lot in areas like the nose. Normally the nose gets really stretched on normal maps. So I guess this is fine for now. We'll see how it goes. Then down here we change the roughness into gloss, and we're going to pick our gloss map. Notice it's being extracted from the red map. So if you have a multi-channel map and you want to pick the whatever channel you want, you can. In this case, it's a grayscale image, so the red channel is fine. So we have our gloss going here. We need our albedo. Let's get our color map into here as well. Make sure that sRGB here is turned on, and make sure that here sRGB is turned off. It should be like that by default, but sometimes Marmoset just acts up and changes it. The Lambertian here, we're going to change it to subsurface scatter. And what the scattering does is just add a bit more softness to the skin. So you can go really soft or you can go really hard, and you're going to find something in between, as long as it doesn't wash your normal map completely. So let's find something here in between that works. On the translucency map, you can actually put an inverted thickness map or a translucency map if you have one. So in this case, I have one. And so as you can see the depth here, if I turn on my light intensity on these ones here on the sides, you will see that this is creating a bit of subsurface scattering around my ears, which is where the map is, and also in the tip of the nose. So this is the amount of scatter, this is the depth that it will go. Don't exaggerate on this. You can actually, it goes up to 1, but if you type 5, it's going to bring it to 5. So you can have glowing ears if you want, which is not the case. I think maybe 2 would be fine. Maybe it's a bit too much. 1.5, that will do. Okay, just give us that extra look there. Maybe it's still too much. We'll see as we go. We might tweak it down. I'm actually going to leave it at 1. That'll be fine. Yeah, I like it like that. Great. We can also add a bit of fuzz. Fuzz just gives it, like if it was small hairs and stuff on your skin, and then you can mask it with your gloss. So your gloss map will mask that. That's great. I can see that on these maps, I'm getting a lot on the hair part. That might be problematic for what we're doing. So we'll see if later on we'll turn this off or not. For now, we're just going to leave it there. Here, we're going to change it to specular. And by changing to specular, we need a spec map, which I have here. And as you can see, this works as well. You can actually give it cold colors or bright colors to this, and you're going to get some kinds of hues going, like so. If you want to go for it, this one would have to be brighter, I guess. And it's maybe too intense. Just see how much. It's because it's blue, so if I turn this a bit brighter, well, it's giving us a little bit. Not much, which is fine. Okay, I don't want to mess too much with this and waste too much time with this. Now we're going to also change here the secondary reflection to Blin Fong. Okay. And we can increase the secondary gloss a little bit. Maybe it's getting a bit too much. So, like so. And the intensity, we can lower it a little bit as well. And the Fresnel as well. That'll be fine. Now we clearly have a dark area around here. We could go to the front light and increase this a bit. But I'm actually gonna put my camera over here and click the light button, which is the same as doing Control L. Okay. And this light, I'm gonna make it closer to here. And instead of a spotlight, I'm gonna make it an omni light. Omni lights, instead of sending it on one direction, they just send light all across. Okay. This is gonna help me with the reflection on the eyes. As you can see, as I rotate my light here, it's gonna just make the reflection there look cooler. So we can make contact refinement here. We can also make it a bit smoother. So not totally, but a little bit. Pretty much like the others, I guess. And then we have a distance, which we can define. We just want to do that for the head, and the attenuation curve, which basically reduces or increments and works with the distance. So together, you can find a light that you like for your face. Maybe this is too much. I'm just gonna actually rotate this around and see where I want it. I guess this is fine. This is a tutorial about hair, not about the face, but we can make use of the light here to just make the hair look as pretty as possible. Now we have the lashes, which are still white. This is just actually high poly lashes, so I'm just going to duplicate this. Grab this, drag it into the lashes here, and give it a dark color, like a brownish dark. Something that doesn't get in the way. We take a closer look, then you can define roughness here as well. It could be really rough, so there's no problem. Okay. Cool. I think we have an okay lighting. It's really white, but I want to see the colors of the hairs as well, and everything, and we can tweak the colors. So obviously, if you go to your skylight and you actually press here, you're gonna get lights that are from the color of the sky. So you could do that. That's like a cold one over here. And if you increase this light's brightness, you're gonna get a contrast of cold and warm lights going on. I'm actually gonna delete these for now. I want to have it as neutral as possible so I can take a look at my light. If you click Control U on your keyboard, it's going to remove everything that is not the character or the meshes, so all the icons. In this case, I'm going to let it be. Now the interior of this mouth is looking terrible, so let's just create a new map. Here, let's remove the head, give this map here to these guys. I'm going to call it teeth, why not? And we're going to get an albedo here, which is this one. We actually can make use of this albedo to create the specular map, so just drag it there. Don't need to make it too intense. In terms of the reflection, I don't want it that much. I can actually change this to gloss. It's pretty much the same. It's just an inverted thing, but since we're using specular, it makes sense to use that. Let me just see how it looks with the head. You can see the effect of this lens now perfectly because there's lights. So you can see that it's just giving us that wetty look that we were looking for. So let's just put the head here and see. I guess the teeth are fine. If we want to just darken this a little bit, we can just color this a little bit here so that it doesn't stand out as much. That's fine. And yeah, we're getting a pretty cool light setup here, that it's neutral and that we can work with. We can still add a few lights if we want, but for now that should be fine. And now we can go back to ZBrush. Having our hair chunks open, I can just click the one hair chunk, whichever one you want. I'll recommend the thick one to start. I'll duplicate this and I'll shift click here to send it down. I'm just going to make a test for my scene to see if everything is working. I'm going to rotate it 180 degrees because I want the triangles to be facing outwards. Okay. I'm going to drag it more or less to the back of the head here. Then I'm going to use the bend curve to position this guy. So putting it there. Stretch this a little bit, making it more or less even. So whatever suits us. In this case, I'm going to flatten this out a little bit there. Make sure I can see the roots as well. I'm going to add this one here. This one there. So we get a chunk like this going, and then we're just going to give it a bit of swing. That's fine. I'm not really worried if that is going to match perfectly or not. We just want to test the shader. In this case, I'm going to quickly duplicate this guy here and just add another one here. Put it aside. Increment the dots and just make it twist a little bit here. Like so. Why not? Okay. If it works, and duplicate it again. This time I'm going to decrease the knots. Just going to bring this guy over here. I'm using the same chunk over and over. It's just for fastness to preview the light there. Okay. Once I have this going, I'm going to grab actually a lesser dense one. So something like this. Duplicate, send down. Come here, do the same again, rotate it 180 degrees. Bring it back, go over here. Bend curve, I'm going to actually start with less because it's just easier to move less. I'm just going to go there. This one's going to go here more or less. This one here. And now I can increase and give it the swing that I need. So let's just put this guy over there and twist it like so. This one is going to go here and maybe shrink it all and flatten it a bit. Bring this guy over and then make it a bit closer to our hair. There, I can twist it a bit as well. And I can duplicate and just have another one that follows that same thing. Right there, beside it. and it's actually ending on the same spot, which is fine. And then we can duplicate this and just make this one bend the other way. Give it a bit of negative space there. Something like so. This is just for us to try the shader, okay? So once that is done, I can go up here to the first one that I started, making sure UV is turned on. I can merge them all down. And we can even, for the sake of this test, we can go back to the gizmo. We can duplicate this. We can mirror it. So it's actually much thicker chunk now. And with the move tool, we can increase the move tool and just do something out of this to make it look like if it's a piece of hair. It doesn't really matter. You see how fast we can just create a bit of hair. Let's just take a look. These guys here are actually quite out facing, but that's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's not going to be like this once we finish our hairstyle for sure. Let's just merge these two guys, and before we export, let's remove the groups, okay? So we don't have the polygroups sent out, because each polygroup will be recognized as the one object, and we just want to have the one object. So we're going to go export. We're going to go to our meshes here, and on the temporary, we can just click the one. This is going to be a temporary file. So when we get back here, we're going to go File, Import Model, Head, or Meshes, Temporary, number 1. And now we get that file over there, which should be right there. He also brought the material with it, which is fine. But we're going to change that. We don't really want it. So I'm just going to click and delete, and that material is basically gone. The one thing I want to do here is to turn off the callback faces option. So I want this to be double-sided rendered. In this case, I turn this off, okay? And now we can create our material. So if we go here, right-click, duplicate, and we choose here, we can drag this material to whatever object we have. And in this case, the first thing we're going to grab is the normal, which is on the bakes here. So normal. I know that I baked it with DirectX, so I'm going to invert my channel here. On the roughness, we can actually change it to gloss, because we're going to use specular map, but you could leave it in roughness as well. It's pretty much the same. So basically, a roughness is an inverted gloss map. So if you have this value here in roughness, it's the same as having a gloss of like that value over there. So it's pretty much just the inverted thing. It doesn't matter. Right? I might leave it at roughness then, no problem. Just because it was a default there. So let me just get the roughness more or less to here, which is mid value, more or less where I normally leave it. Then we're going to get our albedo, which is our diffuse map. So we click the tutorial diffuse map. Then we change the Lambertian type to subsurface scattering as well. I'm going to leave the default settings for now until I have my transparency going. So I'm just going to go down here and click the transparency. And I'm going to choose Deta. Okay. If you scroll down here, you'll see that you don't want to use the albedo alpha. Okay. And you want to just click here and get your alpha map, which is this one. And you'll see that the hair starts to show up. Now we can go and actually bring our specular map, which should be here where it says metalness. You just choose spec. And in here, you're going to put the spec map we did. Okay. And now it's too intense. So let's lower it a little bit. As for the reflection, we want to change it to anisotropic. And I'm going to increase this here so you can see what's going on. Maybe just even remove that. Well, no, it's easier to see it like that. So when you do that, you might want to change, well, you really want to change this 90 degrees, okay? See how the reflection now is like hair-like at 90 degrees. If you have it 0, the reflection is going to be vertical here, because normally it's just by default it's from left to right, but because we made our hair from top to bottom, then we need to rotated it 90 degrees. So let's just actually type 90 here, and you can see the reflection there coming out like hair normally reflects. Okay, so let's just lower that a tad up to here, more or less, and from here we can go to our scatter and decide how much scatter we want on this. If we add a lot, it gets really soft. If we go in between, we're going to get a cool value here where it starts to look like hair. So I think we're pretty close. Then you can obviously tweak the color of your hair here. So if you go to a blonde, you could be like here. If you want to go reddish, you can start to go this way. If you want to actually dye the hair red, you can dye the hair red and have a really cool reddish hair. Okay, the more neutral your albedo is, the more natural this will look. Okay, we might have the sky a bit too strong, so you can see that the sky is making a difference there. So let's just have some, but not as much as it was. Something like this. And as for the color, we're going to start with something closer to real hair. Something like this. And that should be fine. Okay? The last thing I want to do here is to actually create a turntable. So I'm going to click on this new turntable. Well, I had the sky selected, so it did that. I'm going to Control Z this out, and I'm going to actually click the full head, and I'm going to hit the new turntable. And now the turntable, the head is on a turntable. So you have this animation here, which will just rotate whatever objects are inside it. In this case, my hair isn't, which is this object here. So I just drag it over, and now my hair will also rotate with the head. Okay. This way, your light setup is always on the same spot. You might even have the camera always on the same spot and same height, and you just need to rotate it here to see what's going on in your hair. And if you want to render a turntable later on, you can as well. So we have hair looking like hair, reflecting like hair, and colored like hair. We also have a face that looks like a face, and a few lights, and a real-time scene to check our work. We also have integration. Let me show you. We go to ZBrush, and if we, on our object here, we decide to tweak it a little bit and just make it longer, for example. It's really bad, but it's just to show you. And if we go export, and we just export over this guy, when we go to Marmoset, it automatically updates for you. So now I have a bigger chunk there. So it's really fast to just create your stuff, export, check it here, it works, it doesn't, go back, do your tweaks, whatever. Okay? So, great stuff. Next lesson, we're going to start to actually produce the hair. Very exciting times. Let's do this, guys.